What's up, friends? Paul here, and welcome to The Beautiful Mess. I'm excited today to be diving into the topic of minimum viable information. What is minimum viable information? Is an idea that I heard from a guy named Corey Wilks, and basically this idea is a game changer for anyone that researches things to death like myself. Basically, instead of learning as much as you can before taking action, basically ask yourself, what is the minimum viable amount of information needed before starting? And then just start. It's that simple. Often I find I learn the most from actually doing the thing instead of just talking about the thing or watching more YouTube videos or looking at more training. Often it's doing the thing that we learn the most, because you'll make mistakes and then you'll learn from those mistakes and you'll grow. And so my encouragement to you is, don't let the fear of uncertainty stop you from taking action. And so what is that thing for you that you're struggling to get over? Ask yourself, like, what is needed to get started? And it's often less than you think. For example, maybe you want to start a YouTube channel and you think, oh, I need to get this fancy microphone. I need to get this, great gear, this great camera, great lighting. But in reality, you could be just putting off learning and growing. And because each repetition that you make, you'll learn something new. And to be honest, a lot of creating good content is creating valuable content. And so you might have a great setup, like I might have a great setup, but if I do not provide value, it doesn't really matter. People are going to jump off or look for something better, because in the end, it's like two sides. Like, obviously creating quality content matters, but if you prioritize quality content as far as the visuals, but then you don't prioritize the content itself, that will make your content suffer in the long run. So obviously lead with value, but as you develop and get better, improve your setup, improve how you do things. So my encouragement is that, like, ask yourself, what's stopping you from starting a project today? I remember posting this question on a social platform, and somebody basically said that they were paralyzed by how many options they had. And maybe that's you today. Maybe you've got way too many options in front of you. I know that's some place that I see myself from time to time. And one idea that I want to acquaint you with is, envision what things would look like without barriers. So as far as your fear, if fear was an issue, what would you choose to do? Or maybe if money was an issue, what would you do? If time was an issue, what would you do? Basically envision what that ideal circumstance might be, because often we kind of corner ourselves in and we think small, and we need a vision that will excite us. We need a vision that we wake up in the morning and we're pumped about getting to do that. For example, one thing I'm really passionate about is creating content, whether that's through creating this podcast or YouTube videos or music. It's just something that I enjoy doing, and it brings me energy and life. So you might be in a similar situation where you've got an idea and you really want to do it, but then you kind of trip up, whether that's just being paralyzed by the number of options, or perhaps you're getting paralyzed by you need more information. If it's a case of more information, just skip over that part if you can. If not, think about what's the least amount of things that you need to know to get started, and then do that. Because honestly, you'll learn so much as you start doing it, and you'll be on the fast lane to learning. For example, I'm a guitarist, so one thing that you do when you're first learning guitar is you have to build up calluses. And if you don't have calluses because you put off, because you're oh, I got to watch this full course before I actually pick up the guitar, it's a bad idea. And I think you can apply this concept to many areas of life. If you're thinking a musician you need to practice your instrument to get better. You can't just leave it off in the corner and never pick it up, because obviously technique matters. But yeah, you build up these calluses. The same thing with working out. You got to pick up some weight so that your body gets used to that weight. And if you never pick up the weight because you're like, oh, I need to watch more, professional fitness people talk about fitness. It's like, no, you actually have to go to the gym or lift some weights so that you can feel what that's like. And then you can improve your technique as you go. I mean, it's great if you have somebody that can teach you that, but I would encourage you to find something that you can do today, whether it's small. Maybe you start out with, for example, if we're going with the fitness idea, think about something that you can do without any equipment. Calisthenics is a huge thing. Don't let that hold you back. And so, people think oh, I could go into acting, I could be a TikTok star, I could go into painting, there's all these great options. But until you actually dive into one and start going in the direction, it's just kind of this wishful thinking stage. And we need to get past that wishful thinking stage. I love what Jordan Peterson says. It's you got to pick something. If you pick something and then put your all into that something, and a year from now, you realize that maybe that's not the something that you wanted to do, you'll be better off that you pick something and did, that continually. And more likely than not, at the end of the year, you're probably going to be glad that you did that. Even if that doesn't end up being your long-term vision, because then you'll see okay, I learned a valuable skill. I put in my best effort, and now I can move on to something that aligns more with my current goals. I think that, again, if you're having a hard time figuring this one out, kind of take a step back, ask yourself, if money, fear, or time weren't a problem, what would you do? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where's the vision going? And if you don't have complete certainty, don't worry. I've heard from other creatives in the same position. And, something that's funny is that even though someone might be very successful in their field, I still hear it over and over again. They struggle with imposter syndrome. They feel like they're inadequate for the task at hand. And if that's you, don't worry. Sometimes you have to do things with fear. And I love this thing from Marcus Aurelius, is the reserve clause that Stoics would use, basically saying God willing, I'll be successful. God willing, I'll do these good things. But you don't know necessarily whether you'll hit the mark or not. But if you don't even try, then you're sure that you won't hit the mark. But it gives you a little bit of comfort knowing okay, I know I may or may not. So I'm going to leave this into the hands of, whatever happens, but I'm going to give my best effort and then just see what happens. Just go for it. Nike. And so I encourage you, whatever endeavor it is that you have that you want to do, just Nike. Don't let fear of failure get in your way. Don't let fear of uncertainty. Don't let fear of what others think. Just do your best and, get your work out there. If you feel that it's ready, create something that you feel is valuable and will help others, and share that. If you want to send something to me to check out, feel free to do that. Would love to check it out. I'll always love seeing what other creators are doing. But keep up the good work, keep up going. And so there's likely time where you feel like there's a mountain in your way. There's these big obstacles, or maybe you just feel burnt out. But maybe this is an opportunity. So instead of viewing the mountain, this big thing in your way, as a bad thing, maybe view it as a good thing. Say, hey, there's a mountain ahead. I'm going to have to put in the work. But if you put in the work and you get to the top of the mountain, that view is totally going to be worth it. I like this analogy that there's two different people that climb up a mountain. Actually, we'll make it three. There's three people that climb up the mountain. One person decides that the mountain's just too high up. they're just going to be burnt out by the top. Like the time they get to the top, it's not worth it. It might be pretty, or maybe it's going to be cloudy. Who knows? But I'm not going to put in the effort. Why even try? And so they just walk off. And then the second person is like, I could just drive to the top. I don't need to, hike this mountain. I just want to drive to the top. So they just drive to the top. And then the third person decides to actually do the work and hike up the mountain. When the two people that actually decided to go up the mountain get to the top, who do you think is going to enjoy that view more? Is it going to be the person that just drove up the mountain, took the easy path? Or is it going to be the person that, sweat up the mountain? They, might have scraped their knee and gotten all dusty and whatnot. But by the time they got to the mountain, they got their reward. They got this beautiful view. And, they got that feeling of hunger in their stomach, which, it's a good thing when we work hard and our efforts pay off, because then we feel like we accomplished something. And sometimes, feeling hot and sweaty, all of a sudden that view is so much more worth it. You paid a price to get there. But that's the same thing with our creative work. There's a lot of times where you won't see the results. You won't see the effects of what you're doing. You're just walking up the mountain. And there are times where you're just at there might be a peak up ahead, but you can't see it. You can't see the vision. So you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the next and just have that peak in your mind. Even if you can't visually see it or, can't envision it, just know that you're headed in the right direction and enjoy the process. Enjoy those moments where you're stuck and you're not sure where to go on this mountain. Or maybe you're at the foot of the mountain and you're just daunted by it. Just take the first small step in the right direction. That's all we can really do sometimes, is just take that one small step. So for me today, recording this podcast was one of those small steps in the right direction for me. What's your small step? Maybe try to get that done today. Encouragement to you. So last thing, wherever you listen to podcasts, please rate, review, subscribe. Would love to have you in the channel, fam. And until next time, my friends, stay messy.